Hi guys, Mrs. Stock here with our last video, finally, for these notes. It's on dividing decimals, so this will be our only video this week, which is kind of exciting. So get it done and the worksheet done. Okay, so first, some vocabulary. Everybody better write this down on their notes. First is the divisor. These are all words you're familiar with already. Divisor is the number you are dividing by. Your dividend is the number being divided, and hopefully you can kind of see my little divide symbols there. And a quotient is the answer to a division problem. So hopefully you're familiar with all of those words. If not, make sure you're still writing these down. Okay, over here we kind of show this. So we have our long division bar, is what we call this line right here. And this is how all of these numbers get put into there. So our dividend, so the one that's being divided, goes underneath. Our divisor, the one doing the dividing, comes out here in front, and our quotient, which is the answer, goes up on top. So we've seen those before, and looking at it in a linear form right here, meaning it's all in a line, this reads just like a sentence. 15 divided by 3 equals 5. So 15 is the one being divided, so that's our dividend. It's being divided by 3, so the one that it's dividing by is our divisor, and then it equals, or our answer is our quotient, this 5 right here. And so if we were to take these ones right here and write it in this form, our 15 would go underneath, our 3 would go out in front, and once we divide, we would see that our 5 ends up right here on top of the 5. Okay. We are familiar with long division, hopefully, so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we divide with decimals. So this is kind of a cool process, and there's two different step processes for this. So we're going to start with this first set up here, and I'm going to highlight. So this is when we divide decimals by whole numbers. So that means that my divisor is a whole number, and my dividend is a decimal, just like in this first example. So to do that, we have a few steps that we're going to follow. So the first step is we want to place the decimal in the quotient. So all we have to do that is bring the decimal straight up. So on this one right here, it's kind of like adding and subtracting decimals. I'm just going to bring that straight up, and it's going to end right there. Easy enough. Next, we need to divide just like normal. So we're going to divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. So go ahead and check your notes on this if you need to from basic operations. That was in the last unit and the last test we just took. That's where those notes are: divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. And we'll see those steps in just a moment. So let's go over here now, and I'm going to start dividing this. So does 5 go into 3? Nope. But 5 can go into 33. I know that 5 goes into 36 times, and that would be my biggest multiple of 5 that's less than 33. So I'm going to put my 6 right here above the 3. 6, now I've got to multiply. So 6 times 5 is 30. Now I'm ready to subtract. 33 minus 30. 3 minus 0 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0, so I'm just going to leave it like that, so I get a 3. And then I've got to bring down my 5. And again, I'm not worrying about my decimal. It's up there. He's out of our way. So now I have 5 going into 35, which I know goes exactly 7 times. So I'm going to put my 7 right here, right above that 5. So now I'm going to multiply. 7 times 5 is 35. So again, we're just following these steps one more time. We divide, we multiply, we subtract, and we bring down. So I figured out that it went 7 times. I've multiplied those together to get 35. Now I'm ready to subtract. 35, take away 35 is 0. And then I have nothing left to bring down. So I have gone all the way until I have no remainder. So when we're dividing with decimals, you will never have a remainder, which is pretty cool. And we'll see how that can work in just a minute on the next one. So we've got no remainder on this one. So I'm done. So looking up here, because I carried my decimal up, my answer to this is going to be 6 7/10, or 6.7. And I'm done, and I can kind of see that because I know that 5 times 6 goes into 30, so 5 times 6 and a little bit would make sense that it goes into 33.5. Okay, on this next one, I'm going to highlight here. These are our steps to dividing decimals by decimals. So that means that my divisor and my dividend are both decimals that we can see right over here. So we're going to start with our divisor, which is this one out in front, and we're going to move the decimal over to the right until it's made a whole number. So this one only needs to go over one time, and so it'll come right here, and this is going to turn into a 7 or 7.0. Then I've got to move the decimal in my dividend, which is the other piece, over to the right, the same number of spaces. So I'm doing the same thing to both of these, keeping it nice and even. So my decimals are now going to come right here. So this is the only step that's different in this one, is we've got to move our decimals over. And the reason is we want to change this into one that looks kind of like this, where we have a whole number out in front, and then we can have a decimal as our dividend. That's going to work. So we call this the over, over, up method. I'll go ahead and highlight that so it stands up. Over, over, up. So down here we've said we bring the decimal in our divisor over, we bring the dividend over in our, we bring the decimal over in our dividend, the same number of spaces, and it's important that we keep this the same number of spaces. So I'm not bringing this one over till it's a whole number. That's going to mess things up. I'm just going to do the same number that I did right here to make that a whole number. So if this had had 2 decimal places behind it, I would have to move it 2 times, and then I would move this one 2 times. But since it didn't, I only had to go 1. I only have to go 1 right here. Okay, so once all my decimals are moved to the right place, I'm going to bring it straight up. So I've got to bring my decimal straight up. It's going to end up right there for this one. So straight up. Okay, then I've got divide. Again, this is the same thing as we've done before, where we divide, we multiply, we subtract, and we bring down. And then we're going to keep going until there is no remainder, just like before. So let's try that with this one. So now I have 7, because I've changed it, going into 364.7. So I'm going to start right here. Does 7 go into 3? Nope. But 7 will go into 36. And I know that 7 goes into 35, which is really close, and less than 36, and it goes into 35 5 times. So I'm going to write that 5 right above my 6. Okay, I've divided. Now I'm ready to multiply. 5 times 7 is 35. And now I'm going to subtract, and my phone is ringing, so I'm going to pause this video for just a moment. Hi. Good. No, you're good. Oh, lucky me. Okay. 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 Sounds good. Yep. Bye. Okay, hopefully this is resuming like normal. I've never paused one of these before. That was Miss Shaw calling to ask if I'd play in the volleyball game on Friday, so you guys will get to see me do that. Okay, right here we were multiplying. Now we're ready to subtract. 6 take away 5 is 1. 3 take away 3 is 0, so I'm left with a 1. Now I've got to bring down, and I'm going to bring down that 4. Again, I'm ignoring my decimals down in here because I've carried it up. I don't have to worry about that guy. Okay. Now I've got to divide again. 7 goes into 14 2 times, so he's going to go right here in front of that decimal. And I'm multiplying. 2 times 7 is 14. So I'm subtracting. 14, take away 14 is 0. So that's kind of nice, but I'm still not done because I have that 7 out there. So now I'm ready to just bring that guy down. And now I'm going to start all over one more time. 7 goes into 7 once, and that one goes right over that 7, right behind the decimal. 1 times 7 is 7. And I subtract, and I have no remainder, which is exactly what I wanted. So for this one, I'm left with 52 and 1/10, just like that. Okay, Here's our last two. On these ones we are going to see things that are a little bit trickier, which is nice, because I want you to be ready to do these two over here on your own. So I'm just going to check on something really quick. Awesome, we're still recording. Okay, so this one I have 3.6 divided by 24, and that sounds kind of ugly to have a small number, 3.6, divided by something big, but with decimals it does work. So I'm going to set this up in my long division bar. Since my 3.6 is the one being divided, it's my dividend, it's got to go underneath, and my 24 is going to go out in front. So if I look at this, I see that I have one of these, like our first scenario here, I have a whole number, my 24, dividing a decimal. So I'm good to go. I don't have any extra steps on this one. So I'm just going to bring the decimal straight up, and I'm going to divide like normal. So now I'm just pretending that this is 24 going into 36. So 24 doesn't go into 3, but it does go into 36, and it only goes one time. And I'm actually going to put a 0 out here in front because it goes into 3 0 times. You can always put a 0 placeholder in front of things if you would like, but you don't have to. On this one it's kind of nice because otherwise we just start with the decimal. So 24 goes into 3 0 times, but 24 does go into 36 one time, and I write that right over the 6. So now I'm ready to multiply. 1 times 24 is 24. I subtract. 6 take away 4 is 2. 3 take away 1 is 3 take away 2 is 1. I always say the answer instead of what I want to say. So I have this, and now I need to bring something down, but there's nothing left. Because this is a decimal, I can add zeros to the end without changing the value of this. If there wasn't a decimal, it would change 36 into 360, and that's not okay. But 3.6 or 3 6/10 can easily turn into 3 60/100. It didn't change anything. So I add that 0 and I bring him down. So now I have 24 going into 120. That I can figure out. So if I look at this, 24 is pretty close to 25. I know that 25 goes into 104 times. So 24 might be able to go into 120 because it's a little bit less than 125. Let's try it. I think it's going to go 5 times. If you weren't sure, you could try 4, see how it works out, and if you had a remainder bigger than 24, you would know it needs to go 5 times. So let's try 5 though. 5 times 24. I'm going to write that out over here so you can see it. 5 times 4 is 20, so I put my 0 down there, I carry my 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus these 2, 11, 12. Oh look, nice and perfect. 24 goes into 120 exactly 5 times. So I've multiplied, I get 120, and now I'm ready to subtract. And 120 take away 120 is 0. So now I have no remainder. My answer to this one is 0.15 or 1500ths. We'll write that out here to the side and put a nice big box around it so I know that's my answer. Okay, on number 2, I have a decimal being divided by another decimal. So this is going to follow my second set of steps right here. So to do that, I'm going to write my long division bar with a 3.3 underneath and a 1.1 in front. So I might have to do my over, up. So this one, my decimal needs to go over one place. So it's going to go over one place right there. Those match now, and I've got to bring my decimal straight up, so he's going to end up right there. If you have questions on this part, please let me know, because that can get a little tricky. So now it's like I have 11 dividing into 33, or 33 being divided by 11. So I'm going to look at this. 11 does not go in to 3, but 11 does go into 33, and I know it goes in 3 times, so I'm going to put my 3 right there. Now I'm going to multiply. 3 times 11 is 33. I subtract, which gives me 0, and there's nothing left to bring down, and I have a remainder of 0, so I'm done. So I am left with this mess, which really is just a 3, right? Because I have a 3 in front of my decimal, so it'd be like 3.0, which is just a 3, and I don't care about that 0 out in front, it was just a placeholder. So I get 3, which is kind of nice to have a decimal divided by a decimal and get a nice whole number right there. Okay, these two are for you to try. It looks like you've got a decimal being divided by a whole number and another decimal being divided by another decimal. Good luck, and I will see you in class. Bye!